Marvel may be losing their casual viewers, and the most recent trailer for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness proves it. There are big mummy creatures, X-Men cameos, timey-wiminess, minotaurs, and the robots from Avengers Age of Ultron back in 2015. It seems as if Marvel is expecting everyone to be 100% up to date, with all 11 TV shows and all 27 films by the time they go into the latest MCU release. If you've dropped the ball keeping up with Phase 4 and the Disney Plus series, you may be lost. If you desperately want to catch up, there is an order you should watch the films in. While this may not completely lock in Phase 4 with the previous phases for you, it will at least give you a vaguely understandable way to explore the multiverse universes. Start with Disney Plus's WandaVision. It tells the story of Wanda Maximoff, played by Elizabeth Olsen. She's also known as Scarlet Witch. Alongside her is Paul Bettany playing Vision. It all happens in the town of Westview. Typical suburbia. Wanda's love of sitcoms, Catherine Hahn, and a whole lot of dark magic turn the idyllic life of the town upside down. What makes WandaVision important is that it is a direct setup for Doctor Strange 2. Then settle into the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. You could probably get away with skipping this one, but to get the whole picture, don't. This is a buddy action Disney Plus series. It pairs Anthony Mackie's The Falcon with Sebastian Stan's Winter Soldier. They find themselves in a plot to stop the Flag Smashers, a terrorist organization. Then you should watch Loki. This is a high priority. You shouldn't miss it. It stars Tom Hiddleston as Loki, the god of mischief. Remember, he's also Thor's adopted brother. This film goes a long way to explaining the multiverse. And as a side note, the score of this film is simply magnificent. Black Widow comes from Kevin Baker / Marvel Studios. It should be next on your list. It digs into Natasha Romanoff's past. Remember, Natasha is played by Scarlett Johansson, and that's reason enough to see the film. The film doesn't have much bearing on the Phase 4 multiverse events, but don't skip it. Florence Pugh steals the show as Yelena Belova the Assassin. What If is a Disney Plus series. Every episode of What If provides some kind of roadmap for your exploration of the multiverse. Episode 4 is the best, and it introduces the evil Doctor Strange. Marvel Studios made Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. This one has a hard time deciding if it wants to be a superhero or martial arts movie. It doesn't explain much about the multiverse, but it does introduce a new hero, Shang-Chi, to the Avengers. Then, watch Eternals, another Marvel Studios release. It's one of Marvel's most divisive films, so you simply have to watch it, if for nothing else than to see what all the fuss is about. It's not critical for understanding Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness though, so if you have to skip it, skip it. Hawkeye is a Christmas TV series for all intents and purposes. It brings Clint Barton to the small screen. And we have to say, Jeremy Renner does a great job with Hawkeye. And it introduces Kate Bishop, played by Haley Steinfeld. She's a young archer that ends up under Hawkeye's wing. It's not absolutely essential, but it will give you a better feel of Phase 4 and how it ties in with previous phases. Spider-Man: No Way Home is a Sony release. This is the one film that owes Loki a debt of gratitude for familiarizing fans with the idea of a multiverse. This is a cannot miss, must absolutely watch. Thing is, you may have to do some homework here to get the bigger picture, but don't worry, all it entails is watching a few previous Spider-Man movies. So to recap, here are the essential titles to watch before you get to Doctor Strange 2. They will give you a better idea of Phase 4 and how it ties in with previous phases. Loki, WandaVision, Spider-Man: No Way Home, and then the other films we've mentioned. The question is often asked, how is MCU Phase 4 different from the previous phases? Firstly, the Infinity Saga is over, and that marks the rollout of Phase 4. This new phase is filled to the brim with old and new characters, and there are a whole bunch of TV shows too. This already makes it different from the other phases. The MCU, as we now know it, started in 2008. Jon Favreau's Iron Man set the stage. It introduced Tony Stark, played brilliantly by Robert Downey Jr., and it set the tone for this huge and expansive Marvel universe. Since that release, Marvel has released almost 30 films, and there are a whole lot more in the pipeline. Phases 1, 2, and 3 were all about introducing characters that would lead the Infinity Saga. The Quest stopped Josh Brolin's Thanos from gathering all the Infinity Stones. The Avengers teamed up, and the Guardians of the Galaxy later on. The MCU reached its climax with Avengers Endgame and Avengers Infinity Saga. It continues to twist and turn though. Loki has since destroyed the sacred timeline. Scarlet Witch's chaos magic has reached its full potential. And Spider-Man No Way Home opens the multiverse with a slight crack. Meanwhile, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness goes about exploring all kinds of broader ramifications. And remember, Phase 4 has only just begun. This phase will also bring Marvel Comics characters to the big screen for the first time, and it will continue with storylines that have only been explored in 1 or 2 solo films thus far. In most ways, though, there will be huge differences between Phase 4 and Phases 1, 2, and 3. We're not saying it'll be bad, anything but. Sure, the release dates have been chaotic. This is still the aftermath of the coronavirus pandemic. Since the 2008 Iron Man release, Marvel Studios have been releasing at least 1 movie per year. The one exception was in 2009. The MCU was still finding its feet back then, so we can let 2009 slide. But from 2010 onward, Marvel has stuck to the schedule of 1 film per year. Phase 4 was supposed to start in 2020 with Black Widow, but as we mentioned, COVID-19 put paid to those plans. The official start of Phase 4 was pushed back to 2021. The first big difference between Phase 4 and the previous phases is that Phase 4 will have a whole bunch of new movies and TV series hitting the screen in a much shorter period than we were used to in previous phases. MCU is also finally embracing television. Sure, Netflix's Marvel shows took place in the same universe as the films, but they were really separate entities. That also changed completely in Phase 4. Daredevil and Kingpin crossed into the MCU. So did Hawkeye and No Way Home, and Netflix's Defenders series were added to Disney+. Most critically is that the new MCU shows are much more important to the overall storyline in the universe than before, and shows like WandaVision and Loki are serving critical roles in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness setup, for example. As you can see, Phase 4 is going to take some getting used to. For all the mentioned reasons, and even more, Phase 4 will look and feel vastly different from the preceding phases. The narrative will be different, as will the logistics. The universe gets bigger, and the studio is still adapting after the blow of the pandemic. None of this is necessarily bad though. There will be new characters, and new stories, and a whole bunch of fresh concepts. This is really a new era for the MCU. We're out of here. Catch you next time.